With the summer of Steven over and Season 4 just beginning, I think it is a great time as any to start theorizing about possible weapons that we may see in the future for gems we currently know of. Fusion weapons are one of the coolest parts of Steven Universe, as is fusion in general. Not only is the fusion weapon an amalgam of the weapons the components have, but it also plays well with their personality and who they are as an experience. Steven Universe tends to follow a logical path when it comes to fusion weapons. The biggest exception to this as of now is Alexandrite, uses all the weapons simultaneously and can breathe fire. In a moment we shall take a look at a bunch of potential fusion weapons for a variety of fusions. We all know now that the fusion for Steven and Amethyst is Smoky Quartz, whose weapon is a yo-yo. A lot of people actually guessed this one, and it seems like a logical choice for the character. And with Smoky Quartz's introduction, it is confirmed that Steven can indeed fuse with other gems, meaning that they will all have their own unique weapon. This is unlike Stevani, although she wields Rose's sword really well. So let's first start off with the fusion weapons that will include Steven. And let's begin with the fusion that we have already seen, yet do not know the weapon of, Rainbow Quartz, who is a fusion of Rose Quartz / Steven and Pearl. The first question that comes to my mind, however, is, do the fusion weapons remain the same from Rose to Steven? Well, he does have his mother's shield, so I would think so. But we have seen that the same gem can have a different weapon, which they prefer to summon, such is the case with rubies. Also, does Smoky Quartz reveal that Amethyst never directly fused with Rose? If so, I would not think it would be such a surprise for the other gems to see this fusion with a yo-yo. So maybe Steven's fusion weapons vary slightly due to his personality. But to keep things a little less confusing, I'm going to assume at the moment that the fusion weapons he can summon are the same as his mother if she were to fuse with that gem. Got it? Okay, now back to Rainbow Quartz. A popular guess for her weapon is a parasol or umbrella. This would take Steven's shield and stick it right on top of Pearl's spear. Much like a yo-yo, the parasol does not appear to be a weapon at first. But there are instances of an umbrella being used as a weapon both in fiction and in real life. So I see this as totally possible. It can be beautiful, but also deadly. Also looking at the design and personality of Rainbow Quartz, a parasol would work well here. The parasol would perhaps incorporate Steven's weapon the best, but there are a lot of other weapons out there which resemble Pearl's weapon a bit more, and are just as awesome looking as they are deadly. For example, there is the halberd. Halberds are pretty much a fusion of a spear and an additional weapon, pretty much begging for this to be the result of Pearl plus another gem, which in this instance would be Steven. Or it could be a lance. This would make Pearl's spear longer, and the guard on the bottom would come from Steven's shield. For something really crazy, it would also be a chakram, an ancient Indian weapon, where Pearl's spear is placed in the middle to be the handle, and Steven's shield would be the rest of the weapon. This one is definitely a stretch, but they could also combine their weapons to make a throwing glaive. Steven's shield could condense into a star shape, and there will be spikes at each of the tips due to Pearl's spear. Now onto a fun possibility. Well, a parasol was already a fun possibility, but this one is a little more interesting. That is, a pizza cutter. This one is easy to see where Steven's shield combines with Pearl's spear to create a giant pizza cutter. I don't see why this could not be a weapon. It's definitely an interesting possibility, but it makes me wonder if when Steven fuses with any of the other crystal gems, if his weapons will be those that are traditionally considered toys, or something not taken as seriously as it could be. Although this would mean that Garnet and Steven would make soccer boppers, which is an interesting option to say the least. The toy theme for Steven's fusion weapons, not counting the temple gem, is a nifty idea, but there are a lot of actual weapons that would be cool for the combination of Steven and Garnet. If Garnet kept her gauntlets, then maybe Steven's shield could be split into pieces and form bladed gauntlets, adding an extra punch to Garnet's existing weapon. Or for a boxing glove variation, there is the cestus. This is a lot like Garnet's spike gauntlets, but these ones have more spikes and could perhaps offer more protection thanks to Steven's shield. Another option I like is a spiked riot shield. This would take Steven's shield and change it into the shape that is more like Garnet's weapon. And spikes could be added on for good measure. And I do not know if this will ever happen, but if we do get to see Ruby fuse with only Steven, then perhaps their weapon would be one of those shields using boxing training. It could go around their hand and could extend almost to their elbow. It would not have spikes, which is something Ruby gets only after she fuses with Sapphire. Now let's move on to the more complicated fusions. The more gems that fused, the less likely that the options I have are correct, but there are a few interesting possibilities, assuming every time we get a gem equivalent to Alexandrite, their weapon is not just using all the previous weapons with the addition of some elemental weapon. Pearl and Garnet and Steven could have an arm cannon of sorts. We know that Pearl's spear can shoot out projectiles, so maybe their fusion could form by making Garnet's gauntlets bigger, adding Steven's shield to make it rounded. There could even be a tip at the end, incorporating Pearl's weapon design. Or since Sardonyx is part of this fusion, it could still be a hammer of sorts, but one side uses Steven's shield to make the weapon more defensive. Or Steven's shield could split in half and make the hammer into a battle axe. For Steven, plus Amethyst plus Pearl, their weapon could be a huge slingshot. The pouch would be Steven's shield, Amethyst's whip is the band, and Pearl's spear would make the slingshot really tall. This weapon would have energy projectiles just like with Pearl and Opal. They could also combine their weapons to make a crossbow, which would give Opal's existing weapon a pretty cool upgrade. And once again, going back to the toy theme, their fusion weapon could be a rail twirler. They could flick their wrist and the projectile, which looks like Steven's shield, would go flying at their opponent. This could combine Amethyst's whip to form the shape of the metal bars, and Pearl's spear makes them rigid. On the other hand, Steven plus Garnet plus Amethyst could make a sling. But instead of energy projectiles, which would come from Pearl, we have Garnet's gauntlets actually being shot out as ammo. So those were Steven's fusions with the main crystal gem cast. Now I have a few possibilities for the other gems with Steven. Lapis plus Steven could make a water shield. This is probably something Lapis could have already done most likely, but maybe it'll have some of the properties that Steven's shield has. And for that matter, does a fusion with Lapis always result in the weapons not combining? That was the case with Malachite, but if she ever fuses again with a different gem, we might find the answer to this question. Or their fusion could wrap Steven's shield around Lapis's wings, resulting in some metal wings. For Peridot, I'm not sure we know her weapon at the moment. She does have the ability to control metal, but until that is confirmed to be her actual weapon, things are very open-ended at the moment. But if it is the ability to control metal as her weapon, then perhaps their weapon would be another shield of some sort, only stronger and bigger. Then moving on to a gem that is at the moment corrupted. Jasper is a bit difficult to think of weapons due to her weapon being a helmet. So what I think would be best for Jasper and Steven's fusion would be some armor starting from the head going all the way down to the torso. Jasper and Garnet can make armor that could cover the arms of the fusion. So that was quite a few options, and to end this video I want to mention the temple fusion. We know almost certainly that her weapon is a sword. When the ocean is dried up we can see one, and in Bubble Buddies it can be seen as well. This gem is almost certainly a fusion of Rose, Amethyst, Pearl, and Garnet, judging by the curly hair and gem placement. Perhaps it is the addition of Rose in the fusion that gives this fusion the ability to have their own non-elemental weapon, unlike Alexandrite. With all these fusion weapons that I discussed, it is certainly an exciting prospect that one day we will get more of these awesome weapons. However, at the rate that we are getting new fusions, it is probably not possible that we will get to see all of these combinations unless the show goes on for many more years. Or if they released a book or had an episode dedicated to showing a ton of new fusions, that would be awesome. So I hope something like that eventually comes to be the case. But that makes me wonder about some things. Can a bad relationship like Malachite ever get their own fusion weapons? And do weapon upgrades affect fusion weapons? We have yet to see this, although we know that gems can summon their weapon without the upgrades, so I'm assuming that this is what is happening during the fusion. Hopefully the show eventually gives us all of these answers. With the summer of Steven over, we are back to our regular schedule for a while, meaning not as many theories will pile up. But look forward to upcoming videos. Thank you Patreon supporters. If you want a shout out, then the best way to get one is through supporting me here. Thanks for watching!